It's another edition of the program, Frontier Opening Bell. I'm Templar Shaju. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning. Chima Okadeke joins us from Vetiva Capital Management, Ali Kansachu from Rich Frontiers Management in Nairobi, Kenya, and of course, Bosin Omofaye, our executive editor here at Frontier Africa Reports. Thank you, gentlemen, and of course, lady, for your presence on the show this morning. We look at the market's numbers, the indexes specifically. Nigeria was down by 29 basis points. BRVM stock exchange went higher by 48 basis points. The Egypt Stock Exchange sank by 1.38% yesterday, and Nairobi Stock Exchange moved up by some 40 basis points. You have the Johannesburg Stock Exchange rising higher by 1.03%. In the Eastern African headlines before us this morning, Kenya's, specifically beginning with Kenya, we've got Airtel looking to open 30% capital to national private investors. Africanhair PLC malls listing on Nairobi Stock Exchange. From Merj Exchange, you've got Curzio proposing some gross dividend of 0.03 pence per share for the first quarter of 2021. And Rwanda's weekly coffee export revenues dropped by 672%. Tanzania inflation rate falls to 3.2% in March versus 3.3% in February 2021. Let's begin with you, Ali, for these headlines from the eastern part of Africa.
So thank you, Temple. Let me start with Airtel. Obviously, in Kenya, we have a very dominant operator in Safaricom, who've made a great success of the business. Airtel, just for you to realize, has accumulated losses of about $360 million on its balance sheet. So therefore, I can't think of any kamikaze investors who are going to be that keen to take up the offer of 30% of the shares in Airtel Kenya, unless it's a strategic investor of some kind. Airtel Money recently was sort of set aside and raised capital from the likes of MasterCard. So maybe it'd be somebody like that. But certainly this is not an attractive proposition to anyone that I've spoken to. I think the government would be well advised, if they are looking to encourage activity at the stock exchange, to bring profitable companies to the stock market rather than something like this, Airtel Kenya. Africanhair PLC mulling a listing on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The KNSE has been pushing very hard to increase the number of companies listed at the stock exchange. They've been encouraging the government, for example, to sell off stakes in profitable parastatals, or increase the share held by the public in already existing IPOs like Kengen. Africanhair PLC, from what I can see, obviously as per the name, and it's interesting, I saw some data saying that the amount Africans spend on hair is close to $6 billion, just to give you a flavor of the size of the market on the continent. So, they have some interesting partnerships with people like Maybelline. It might tickle people's fancy, particularly if they're a profitable outfit. Their main shareholders out of Scandinavia. So it'll be interesting to see. This will be, I think, the first listing of this type in what is a very fast-growing segment of the African economy. Merj, this is the Seychelles Stock Exchange. Very innovative folks over there. They've been playing around with cryptocurrency and all kinds of things. Worth keeping an eye on. Nimble, agile, fast stock market. And that's Curzio proposing a gross dividend of 3 cents a share for Q1 is going to tickle somebody's fancy, I'm sure. I was trying to work out what a drop of 672% really was. It sounds so enormous and exponential. Rwanda, of course, has been pushing hard in the agri sector with much success. They're exporting chilies to China. They've been innovating a lot in that segment. I just think this is probably a supply-related issue more than a price-related issue, because coffee prices have remained, they rallied off their lows, multi-year lows. They remain pretty firm. Tanzania inflation rate falling to 3.2%, very benign when I compare it to somewhere like here in Kenya, where we're nudging up towards the upper part of the band at 7.5%. And that's predominantly because Tanzania is a very strong agri-economy, and therefore food prices tend to be capped. The major challenge on the continent is for food deficit countries. Egypt is one example where you're seeing food prices increase. I think we're back at levels not seen since 2011. And when food prices start to spike, you tend to get a lot of uncertainty on the streets and unhappiness. You will remember the bread riots in Mozambique in the early part of this decade. The protesters in Egypt were complaining about the price of bread. Here in Kenya, we've had a big price spike in the price of bread. But basically, Tanzania is a unique scenario, a little bit like South Africa. You've got a very good agricultural economy. And really, last year, those economies which had a strong agricultural sector were able to navigate the pandemic much better than others.
Thank you very much for this analysis, Ali. Chima, you must have something to say. What's a good way to hear of African hair as opposed to Brazilian hair, Peruvian hair, and all that? And they are planning to get listed. You're the lady in our midst here. Bosun doesn't have anything to say to this. And of course, you probably want to say something about Airtel.
Yeah, I'll just defer to what Ali has said. I leave him as the expert on the East African market. If I can speak to, I think we're going straight to the West African markets now.
Okay, all right, we'll take it that way. West African headlines before us. Central Bank of Nigeria to begin enrolling DFIs, MFBs, that's microfinance bank, PMBs, FCs on the CRM's platforms. Goodbye Nigerian Stock Exchange as the NGX Group launches new brand identity website, and I understand that they have now been admitted to the NASD OTC for tradability. BUA Cement lists 115 billion naira 7-year series 1 bond on NGX. That's the former Nigerian Stock Exchange. The Development Bank of Mali reports profit of 20 billion CFA francs in 2020. You've got BECEAO injecting some over 3 billion CFA francs as well in liquidity into WAEMU market. Senegal inflation records increase of 1.2% in March this year. Will be more gender sensitive. Let's come to you first, Chima, before Bosun speaks.
Okay, thank you, Temple. So I'll start with the CBN story and the plan to enroll other financial institutions under its CRM platform or CRMS platform. I think what this would do, first of all, is to deepen the database that this platform can boast of, in line with the agenda or the objectives of the platform, to be able to ensure that debt history is transparent. So to help banks maintain credit risk, to help banks manage their credit risk, there's a need for them to know the absolute credit standing of each debtor that is coming to them or each loan they're about to disburse. So I think it is very important, because it's not just the DMBs that give out loans. We have all these other financial institutions giving out loans, and given that the CRMS has been very successful, according to reports from the CBN, it has been very successful with the DMPs which have already been enrolled in it. It just makes more sense for you to have a more elaborate database, and what this would do is that it would help to consolidate the credit information of all sectors. It will help these financial institutions to know what to be wary of Should we go into the sector? Should we give more loans into the sector? Given the database, the history of non-performing loans that have come out of the sector, should we be venturing into the sector? It's just clear for everybody to see. So I think this new development, which would help to deepen the platform, like I have said, is very welcome, and it's just exciting to see where this goes from there. Also, he spoke on the NSE, goodbye NSE, and welcome NGX. So around yesterday, I think I was trying to access the NSE website and I couldn't access it. I was wondering if the website was down. I didn't remember that we were entering into a new era of the whole core structure. So around today as well, I saw that they were trying to restructure to make it NGX, and I think it's a welcome development. This follows the demutualization process that has happened for the NSE, and in addition to all the other objectives or all the other advantages that we'll see, we may see the NSE or the NGX group try to list on the NSE, which would be very significant for the Nigerian market. Also, I think this opens the company or the NSE, the NGX, up to access to more funds. So we know that the NSE is performing well when we compare it to other stock market exchanges. If we look at the 2020 performance, we saw that year to date it was the best performing index, performing exchange in terms of performance. So I think that for this development, it brings the NSE or the NGX out into the open. It makes investors more interested. Now that it is being demutualized, we should see, although the current board members are still previous owners or previous board members, I think that with the opportunity that this presents, we may start to see board members that were not previously owners. We may start to see newer faces, newer minds, which would open up innovation, and we'll be able to see a lot of changes going forward. Also, it opens this platform for capital raising. So we know that 2020 was a bad year. A lot of firms need to have capital to innovate, to grow, and to develop. So I think that with the tradability of the firm, it brings a purer view, a clearer view, and people can now see what is really going on with the firm. And if they decide to list, if the company decides to list, it should open it up to more capital raising avenues, and we should see growth from there.
Thank you very much, Chima, for these contributions this morning. Bosin, let's have you. I mean, the floor is yours now.
Yeah, just a quick thank you. Just a quick to add to what Chima said about the NGX. I think it is this is history's made today. We'll be speaking to Bola Jomale, the managing director and CEO of the NESE over-the-counter market later this evening. This is quite strategic that for the first time we're having securities exchanges cooperation in Nigeria. And I've always said, Temple, I want us to go the way of the East African community guys and a bit of the Southern African as well, and become truly international. This is the first time that an exchange is demutualized and is listing and is tradable on another exchange, pending the time that it will be able to list its own shares on the zone exchange itself. And I think today now we're standing at the threshold of history that we never thought would happen in Nigeria's 60-year history. In my 30-year career as a financial journalist, this is a day that I thought would never come to happen, because our exchanges were all compartmentalized, as it were. It's like daylight and nighttime. They don't get to see each other, Tom and Jerry kind of all the time. But now it looks like this is getting broken down and we're having a new horizon. And I think it's a good one to the authorities. Very quickly to mention today that the foreign exchange operators, the Bureau of Exchange operators, will be meeting with some officials of the Central Bank, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and the Financial Intelligence Unit. It's a very big meeting for the directors of all the Bureau of Exchange operators in Nigeria. That's one other big news that is also happening to look into Nigeria's exchange market and currencies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bosin. Ali, would you want to comment on the demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange? The reality is here, 1 minute or thereabout.
I think that's a really positive step. We've already seen the demutualization of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. It gives the stock exchange a lot more flexibility, particularly around partnering with other stock exchanges and bulking up. I think that's the opportunity for Nigeria is probably to consolidate other stock exchanges in the region. And the way to do that is if you've got some equity, you can do some equity swaps and create a bigger platform and give investors a one-stop shop for a bigger menu of investments.
Thank you very much, Ali, for those contributions. If you permit me, I'll just add my own comment here, and that's the fact that at a point in time, the Nigerian Stock Exchange was unable to pay salaries. Now that they are demutualized, demutualization brings about ease of entry and exit of investors, and so there will be more liquidity, and such problems that they had back in the days will never occur again. That is something that is worth celebrating. Let's move on now to the South African markets, where you've got Eskom looking to raise 2 billion rand through sale of non-core properties. Capitec Bank has got its profit before tax shrinking by 31% to 5.59 billion rand. And of course, Getbox, MFB, Microfinance Bank, net losses widens to 44.8 million Zimbabwean dollars. Tonstar expects PBT, that's profit before tax, for year ended January 2021, down by 13%. That's some kind of a profit warning there. NAM, Fischor to raise 60 million, that's in Namibia, I beg your pardon. Namibia's got a Fischor company to raise 60 million Namibian dollars via quotation auction very soon. Ali, let's come to you before we hear from Bosun.
Yes, so let me start with Eskom. As we all know, has tremendous challenges on the balance sheet, and this is an attempt to shore up the balance sheet by the sale of non-core properties. It's something I'm surprised they haven't done before, but obviously they're looking to move the needle on that. Capiitec Bank, one of the fastest growing banks in South Africa, given its exposure to South African retail, not as in shops, but as in the retail customers. I don't think that's too bad a performance myself, minus 31% in what was an unprecedented pandemic year. Getbucks, this is an interesting microfinance bank in Zimbabwe, fast-growing, innovative, obviously had a tough year last year, but it's something worth keeping an eye on. And the other headline I'd just like to touch on is Fischor. As you know, Fischor was caught in the crossfire of a scandal, which Al Jazeera investigations caught hold of, and where apparently they were giving out fish quotas and recycling the money into SWAPO and financing the ruling party, and there was a very big issue with it. One hopes that situation is now straightened out and they're back to doing what they should be doing, which is managing the tremendous fishing resource off the coast of Namibia.
Thank you very much, Ali, for these contributions. Bosun, you are always in love with corporate stories.
I think the story around Eskom is one good thing about how you dispose of non-core assets, strip it all down, get into the nitty-gritty of what you know how to do and do it well. Electricity, power problem in South Africa was anything good to write home about, and they shouldn't allow it to degenerate into Nigeria's level, by the way. By any means possible, they should just make sure it works out. So I think Eskom will have to look inwards to be able to see that, look, you can get government money forever, you have to work things out as a company, as a public company and as a public utility, and make sure that you are treated fit for purpose. I think that is all I've got to say about Eskom. But I think this is a good move. Let's see how much they can deleverage their books with this non-core sale of assets, how much liquidity they can bring in, what new assets will they be investing in to ensure electricity sustainability in Africa's most advanced economy, which is South Africa.
Thank you very much, Bosun. Chima, any comments on Eskom?
Well, I agree with what the previous speakers have said. I know that Eskom had huge debts on its books, and this 2 billion, so it had previously, I think, sold some other assets to get some revenue or some income. And I think this further sale will definitely help with its balance sheet and with liquidity, which can also help it in developing or focusing more on its core operations. So I think it's something something to look forward to. It then depends on how well the company will be able to manage its cash and manage its asset purchases and manage investments. And we should just see how it goes from here.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
please go ahead.
Okay, I think we missed one story, or I missed one story in the West African market on BUA Cement. We saw that BUA Cement raised about 115 billion naira in its Series 1 bond, in Series 1 tranche bond issuance. And I just want to say that BUA Cement has been very the performance has been very encouraging. We could see in 2020 how, despite the pandemic and the disruption to real estate advancements and constructions, how it was able to grow bottom line and top line and bottom line. And with its mergers over the past 3 years or the past years, has been able to climb and get into the top 3 cement firms in Nigeria. So I think that is very very encouraging. Also, we see that the company is set to add to its capacity about 3 million metric tons by the end of 2021, which may be part of what the debt that has issued will be used to finance. I haven't been able to look at prospectus properly, but I think that's what it will be really used for. And if you also look at sentiment surrounding this the bond issuance, we could see that they had initially planned to raise about 100 billion, and I find it interesting that they ended up raising about 115 billion, which shows that investors are really encouraged by their performance and see a lot of potential for growth in the company. So I think it's very interesting to watch out for, and we should be looking at BUA Cement.
The competition in the space is one of the key catalysts there. Thank you very much for your comments there, Chima. Let's finalize the show now with the Northern African headlines before us, where Egypt has got the foreign direct investment inflows slid by some 32.3%, 32.3% year on year to $3.4 billion in the first half of 2020-2021 calendar. You've got the National Bank of Egypt's net profits, net pre-tax profits of 30.6 billion Egyptian pounds for the full year 2019-2020. Ceramic company Sheeny expects net profit of some $4.6 million as well for full year 2021-2022. Macro Group Pharma postpones its initial public offering. Listed companies turnover to grow by 5% in 2021, 4% in 2022, says Atijari Wire Research, which is a major bank actually. Ali, your comments, please.
Yes, so look, FDI sliding in Egypt 32.3%. That was a little bit higher than I expected, but obviously we were in a very different macro environment for that reporting period. And I think, I suspect people, the pipeline, I suspect will start to flow. I think there were a lot of decisions which were probably delayed and which will now come through. Egypt, for me, remains probably the most attractive destination market in the continent because of the overall environment and the market opportunity, over 100 million people, and mostly condensed along the Nile, so you've got a lot of density. So I expect that to pick up. I think that's a blip in the situation. I remember that story about one of the ratings agencies being concerned about the Egyptian banks, but National Bank of Egypt, that's a strong pre-tax profit number. And I think you'll see that pretty much across the banking sector. If I can just conclude with Atijari Research, listed companies turnover to grow 5% in 2021 and 4% in 2022. I think that's probably quite conservative, and you'll probably see closer to 9 or 10%.
Okay, because again, we've been seeing some traction in the currency lately. Thanks a great deal, Ali. Bosun, your final words.
Yes, I think my final talk will be on the last point that Ali touched about new listings on exchanges in Egypt and what the Nairobi Securities Exchange is also doing, getting an air company. You know, last year they brought some music to the market with the Homeboys Entertainment, and we had some music on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now they brought in air company. Look, we need to promote and get our indigenous companies on our own exchanges in Africa, and not just about the multinationals that are like the big telcos and the rest. Look, we need.
Okay, looks like Bosun's connection is freezing.
So I think it boils down to the fact that yes, we can do a whole lot more. We need more of our own indigenous company on our own exchanges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and let's hope that with the demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, you'll be able to have a lot of that. I mean, I met someone in Kent who knows the Nigerian Stock Exchange much better than I think I do, actually, and that's really surprising. At the end of the day, we'll be able to see more traction. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your presence and your analysis on the show this morning. Chima Okadeke, consumer goods analyst with Vetiva Capital Management, thanks a great deal for your comments. Ali Kansachu joining us from Rich Frontiers Management in Nairobi, Kenya. Appreciate your presence. Thank you so much. Bosun Amofaye, appreciate your editorial judgments here on the show this morning. This has been Frontier Opening Bell for these Wednesday. No. I think it's Thursday actually, or the Wednesday. I'm making a mistake. Forgive me.
Wednesday. Don't worry.
Wednesday. Thank you. This has been the show for today. I'm Temple Ashaju. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.